Are you ready to eliminate your credit card processing fees? Visit www.pairpayments.com and use code JAKE for a $250 Visa gift card when you join today.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Under Pressure Podcast, where we are going to talk about all things business under pressure. Today, we have with us Curt Spencer. Curt, how are you today?
Doing good, John. How are you doing?
Awesome. So glad you came on today to join us on Under Pressure. Curt is the owner of Heavenly Sunshine Property Services. Curt, where exactly are y'all located?
We're located in our office in North Mississippi, just outside of Memphis. Memphis is our primary market. We do work. It's primarily in the immediate Memphis area, but we do go about an hour and a half, probably I'd say 90-mile radius to some larger areas, more rural areas that have some larger projects that we'll go to annually.
Nice. Well, Curt, tell us a little bit about your story. Like why did you, how did you get into this? Why window cleaning? First of all, what all do you guys do? Window cleaning, power washing, all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above. We do. We got started window cleaning. When I started, we've added pressure washing. We do facade cleaning, building sealing. We're trying to progress into the waterproofing side of it.
Nice.
I guess I was kind of born into it. When I was young, 2, 3, my mom started a maid service. My dad was going to seminary, and my mom started cleaning houses on the side. And I grew that in the late 70s by the mid 80s. She had a pretty large residential maid service. I think she had about 30 employees. And so I grew up in service business and spent my summers either when I was kindergarten, spent my summer passing out flyers, doing whatever kind of work parents, had us doing that summer. And then as I got older, we would go to the houses and actually have to do the work. They started adding on window cleaning for the residential clients. Of course, we knew nothing about it, and we were just, using rags and Windex to start.
Sure.
Kind of grew that, and then I gravitated towards the window cleaning just because as a young boy, I'd much rather be outside climbing ladders and sweating than be inside dusting and mopping. So I grew up in that, and then they started picking up some large construction cleanup jobs. In Tunica, Mississippi, they built a lot of casinos in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, and we were the largest cleaning service around. So at that age, by that time, I was old enough that I was managing crews for and made some connections. And I wanted to go do commercial window cleaning, and neither one of my parents really thought that was very good business to get in because it can get pretty cutthroat. A lot of people try to underbid, and there's some shady businesses out there, but my philosophy was they can't all be that way. Somebody's got to be running a legitimate business.
Sure.
And so I started focusing my energy there. Had a few opportunities come up and was able to capitalize on them, and just kind of use that as a springboard to get going. So over the last 20 years, we've gone from doing strictly window cleaning to I'd kind of gotten out of the residential side and strictly into commercial. Now we're doing commercial, residential, windows, pressure washing, roof cleaning, soft washing, facade cleaning. So
nice.
I can't remember.
So you were kind of bored into it, but you chose, like, it's still that. I'm sure you could probably remember that pivotal moment where you were like, "Am I going to propel into this? I'm going to be the entrepreneur, not my parents." And I'm kind of taking it a little bit different direction. What really inspired that? Why be an entrepreneur and deal with the headache of hiring and firing and doing all the things versus just going out and working for somebody and collecting that paycheck?
Yeah. So growing up in the family business, I got to witness, I grew up in a business. So to me, that was kind of what I understood about how it was supposed to be. You're your own boss, but you're the one responsible if things don't go right. There's not someone else that you report to. It's the buck stops here. So it's kind of your fault if things go good or bad. And I like that. I like that control of your effort, energy, and time. And to me, that kind of makes it more of I'm a very competitive person, and to me, that makes it more of a strict competition because what my company does under my guidance is a direct reflection of what I think I can do or how I can get it done. Uh, as opposed to if I'm working for someone else, I'm limited by whoever it is that is calling the shots. But me and my mom's a very, very strong-minded individual, much like myself. A lot of times when you put two people like that together, they always get along very well. So I kind of wanted to branch off and go my own direction and do my own thing. And I had taken an interest in that exterior cleaning, and I knew that was something that they didn't do, so I wasn't stepping on their toes of any kind of service they were already providing. And it's something that I already had some knowledge in and some desire to do it. So when I had an opportunity come up, to me, it was, hey, I can do this, and I wanted to try to take my shot and see what I could do. And and it all happened so long ago, I can't remember specifics other than I know that I wanted to be independent, and I wanted to, I felt like I could do something with it. And I've been fortunate enough to do pretty well for the last few years. But again, I think I'm at a point where it's I feel like I need to do more, just to try to continue to fulfill whatever potential I think I've got.
Nice. That's awesome. So far, what do you think's gone great about it? Like you and the business itself. Obviously, you guys are successful. You're doing great things. You're making good money, and you guys are looking at potentially expanding and things like that. But besides kind of the obvious, what's really gone great?
Well, for me, I mean, it's I don't know where the business starts and my life outside the business ends. It's kind of all merged together. For me, I feel like I've got a really good balance between what the business offers, the time I need to commit to it, but then also the time I've got away from the business to do other things I want.
Nice.
One of the greatest things that having this has offered me, it's my boys grew up, they're grown now, they're both in college, but we grew up playing baseball from a young age. And I was telling both my sons last year, as they were kind of debating their college degrees, I was telling them, hey, the whole time you grew up, we traveled all over the country playing baseball, weekend after weekend, just nonstop. And there was never a time that I told them I cannot go to your tournament this weekend because I've got to work, or we don't have enough money to do that this weekend, or we're not going to be able to get a hotel room tonight. We need to drive home. It was not that I made an extremely well off, but I was comfortable enough and flexible enough with my time to make that happen. And to me, that's one of the greatest things that I've gotten out of it. Now as they're grown, I'm trying to focus more on what's the future look like if grandkids come around, or as my young girls get bigger. But some of the relationships that I've made, again, like my personal relationships and my business relationships are kind of one and the same. A lot of good friends I've met, either through business associates, through customers, through associations, just a lot of really good relationships, and that just make it all, seem effortless.
Very cool. Yeah. And so I met Curt. We went out to, of course, I work for Bergflow, and Curt, obviously he's someone that is one of our clients at Bergflow, but we went out. Dirk has a big ranch called Maris Adventure Park, and Curt and Jonathan and Wesley and a bunch of us went out there, and we had a great time hanging out, camping, doing some weird caving and all kinds of junk that I was not. I'm a little claustrophobic, but Curt was all in, man. He's like diving in the cave, he's ready to go.
There was one cave I had to turn around and say, I can't fit through that. When I saw Amy almost get stuck, I was like, if she's getting stuck, I know I ain't getting through there.
Yeah, we had a really good time out, just hanging out. We had some great food, great conversations. And of course, anytime you're camping, and this land is beautiful. It's in the canyon. So that's when I met Curt, and Curt's a great dude, and learning about his business and what he's been doing. It was a fun time for me, and I learned a lot about you and just about business. There's a lot of things that I just didn't know as we had these conversations. And then, so what did you think about that Maris Adventure Park out there? How did you feel about that place?
Man, that was insane. Like, it was that was one of those things where it was it's hard to describe just how beautiful the country is. You know, when I've never been out to West Texas, you hear songs about it, and but it's definitely in a flyover part of the country, and I've flown over it 1,000 times, but never actually been there. And it's something, the Jeep trail riding, sounds super fun, but it's probably not something that I would take the time to go schedule and try to put together, just because that's not really something that I spend a lot of time doing. But it was insanely fun. It was great spending the time there, because we were off the grid pretty much, sleeping in tents and no cell phone service, especially once you got down in the canyon. But just hanging out with everybody and spending that much time with everybody to get to talk to them and get different stories. I mean, I know your story's crazy, just all the things you've done. Your past career was a little more adventurous than what we're in now. But it was a great experience. I mean, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I expected it to be fun, but it definitely exceeded expectations. Now the caving, I mean, it was fun. I'm just glad I didn't get stuck. I know we got a video out there somewhere where I almost got stuck, but I did manage to get through it. So,
yeah, I think I've seen part of that video. I wanted no part of the cave, which actually, if I went in part of the ways there, I just get me in a tight space, and I'm feeling pretty bad.
That last cave was not made for people my size or your size.
No, and neither one of us are small people, so these are some pretty tight areas. So it was a lot of fun though. But that's the kind of stuff that you get to go do, and not just things like that. You've kind of set up your business now where you have the opportunity, where you're going to devote that time, like you were saying. You're going to spend time with your kids. You're going to spend time with friends and groups, and there's this thing that people say about who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're growing with and all of that. So what is it, the law of the average of 5 or something similar to that? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I believe it. I play a lot of golf though. There's people to hang out with, but I don't know if I want to come to average in. But I kid. I've got some really good buddies that entrepreneurs themselves that I do play golf with. But even working with Bird Flow, to me it means a lot to spend time with with you or with Dirk or with Wesley, just the communications we have or the calls we have. I mean, I think that even if it doesn't put them in the 5 people I spend the most time with, I think that you still average out to the people you spend time with, and it's always good to have people that are good influences that are trying to help you focus on moving in the right direction, on an agreeable direction that you obviously want to try to move.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just some of that like-minded thinking, and if you're surrounding yourself with these guys that they're down, they're always complaining, and there's nothing positive happening, or sometimes that can get pretty old. So if you can kind of, you're competitive, you've got that spirit, that drive to do things, you want to be around that. And sometimes it takes a little bit of that to be around to change people's mindsets from that negativity. So I don't know. It was a great time. So let's get into some of your window washing, power washing. Now you guys have some pretty big clients. Is that right? Now we don't have to name them. It doesn't matter to me, but you've got some pretty high profile clients.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of the bulk of our business is based off of, handling like large facilities, campus, multi-building campuses, large buildings that require different types of access. So with that, we kind of limit the amount of competition that we can have, just because there's only a select few people that have the capacity to operate, at a large scale. When you look at an airport or a business park that's got 10 buildings, or campuses, it can be a lot, and each building's got its own unique challenges, and so we've been able to position ourselves to where multiple ways to access any type building any structure we're going to find in the Memphis market. But that applies, across the country. Now, if we went to a larger city, we're not as set up to focus on doing really high-rise type building. We've got some of the equipment that you would need to do it, but I'm not customized for that type of work. More mid-rise type things. But yeah, we've got some large clients that we do a variety of different services for. Got them set up on maintenance schedules, and it's worked out pretty well. It's kind of found our little niche, here. Nice.
So when you're going after, was that like if you were going after those clients, was that something that did you do that automatically early on, or was it something that you pursued? Did you fall into that, or was it literally like, I'm going to walk in this high profile client and try to see if I can talk to the owner or whoever's in charge of this outfit?
Yeah, so I kind of a lot of things just happen. There's opportunities around us every day, and a lot of times it's just a matter of if we're at a point in our life where we recognize it or not. I happen to have an opportunity come up, and I just was in a good spot to recognize it. I'd recently kind of started my own commercial window cleaning, had knocked out a couple of big jobs, and we had a large client here in Memphis that had moved their headquarters here. Their headquarters is here, but they were building a brand new headquarters, and they want someone who caters to them. They want somebody who obviously treats them probably like they deserve to be treated. I mean, they're a top-notch client, and they want top-notch service. And there was nobody that was able to provide that service to them. And here I was, a brand new company that really had no experience working on that scale. But I got a call to go out there and do a small portion of work, and I did it. And I was like, hey, now it's not so overwhelming. I can go do that much more work. And I kind of went back to them and talked to them, said, hey, I want to do all your work for you. And they was like, okay, well, give us a proposal. So I kind of, the door opened, and I was able to get in and do a little bit of work. And I was kind of able to nurture that relationship and build that up into getting all their work in a relatively short window. And then, of course, over the 20 years that we've been out there, I've been able to recognize some needs they have and kind of communicate those with them and really help hone in exactly what they want and what they need from us. And part of what we really try to do is we try to be their eyes on the job site. As a property manager, they can't inspect all their buildings all the time. But we've got guys that are on their buildings all the time. So it's a lot easier for us if we notice things that are in need of repair or something's out of place, for us to communicate that with them. It really kind of makes us a partner with them. And any property manager, regardless of whether they own the property or just manage it, appreciates that, because in the type of business we do, we're accessing areas that nobody else is going to see besides us a lot of times. But yeah, we had kind of got my foot in the door, got it worked out, and then it wasn't long after that we had another large hospital called us. Actually, it was St. Jude called us and wanted us to come out there and do work, and we've been out there for about 20 years now. Nice. It was one of those, they weren't able to get the customer service they wanted. A lot of these customers, they don't want you to bring headaches to them. They want you to bring solutions. And, and as long as you just focus on that, that's what they want. It's a lot of these problems that we're fixing aren't problems they understand. So they don't want us taking a problem back to them and tell them, hey, here's a problem. I don't know what you want to do with it. They want us to come back to them and tell them either it's fixed or here's who needs to fix it.
Yeah, we got the solution, or we can tell you where to find the solution.
Yeah.
Nice. So it sounded like what you said is basically this, that first really larger client really started out with kind of a small job that you were willing to do.
I would consider it small. I would consider it small by my standards today. It still wasn't small. The first big customer that we've got, it's FedEx, it's headquarters here, but they host an annual golf tournament at TPC Memphis, and their headquarters is built on this golf course. Like, it's built around part of the golf course. So they wanted us to come clean the windows on 3 of the buildings that face the golf course. So we're only cleaning half of 3 buildings. But to me, it was a pretty big job for the time, because I just had a couple of people working with me, and it was a lot of work for the way we were accessing it. We don't have access all figured out yet. So we were trying to do it all out of lifts. It was a slow process. But once we got that figured out, we knew we could do it. Then I went back to them and approached them and said, hey, let me finish these buildings. Let me do the other half of these buildings, and I'll, cut the price down. And they're like, fine, go ahead. And then once I finished that, then I completed 3 buildings on their campus. And I'm like, well, hey, I want to do all the buildings. And, they had 9 on the campus then. Or there were 8 then, there's 9 now. And so like, okay, that's fine, get us a price. But then, they have multiple campuses around Memphis. So it ended up being 32 or 33 buildings, around Memphis. But since I was able to do those 3, it gave me enough information that I could look at them and I could confidently say, hey, I know it takes X number of hours to do one building. And I could model my proposal off of that. And so they were willing to, they were willing to work with me. They were, they were easy. They knew what they needed, and they knew it didn't exist. And they knew that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure they were happy. And it's kind of how I've maintained a relationship with them and all of our customers, for that matter. Once we get a customer, it's I feel like we do everything we can to ensure that we're providing them with everything they need, plus some. If we're their eyes on the ground, if we're helping make their job easier, not just by doing our job, but by communicating with them and helping them get the information they need about their property. I think that really helps nurture that relationship as they look at you as a vendor, completely outside of just personality and how you get along with them personally. But if you're just providing the service you're supposed to, and you're providing them with helpful information, they're gonna see a lot of value in that.
Nice. I had Kevin Hargis on not long ago on the podcast, and you guys have said some similar things about taking that opportunity when it kind of presents itself. Like there's something there, and no job necessarily may not be too small, but you could have left it. You could have left that hanging there on that. Like, look, all right, I got to clean these fronts. That's cool. High five. Let's. But you took the opportunity to say, look, man, I want to come in and I want to take care of you guys. And even though maybe you weren't scaled to do that at that moment, that takes courage and kind of a little bit of bold nature to step in there and say, I can handle this.
Yeah, it's those things. It's like, fake it till you make it. If I got in, I felt confident that I could do it. The only concern I really had was if they were pushing me on a timetable, I could see my timetable getting squeezed. if I didn't have the manpower to, to accelerate my projected time. But I was able to. I didn't run into any major obstacles there. Back then, in the early 2000s, it wasn't too hard to find help. It wasn't like today's market where it's pretty tough, finding help, especially in a labor market. But I was I'd grown up in a business that, while it wasn't identical, I saw a lot of the issues, and so I feel like I'd identified problems that I'd seen through my parents' company, through working in it, through having relationships with the employees there. Me myself being an employee there for my entire life until I was probably early 20s. But I had some really good friends that I worked alongside, and so I'd identified, like, from the employee perspective, I identified problems that I saw in the business, and then as I started mine, I just tried to avoid some of the issues that I thought were problems, and think of ways to improve them. And now here it is, 20 years later, and I'm still trying to figure out ways to improve them, and I'm still finding issues that I've got and problems that I'm causing or not addressing. But I think it'll never be perfect, but I think we just got to, if I can identify the problem, then I can try to identify a solution. And that's kind of how I entered that market. Was I knew the problem and I knew the solution. I just had to see if I could make it all work in the right time.
Right. So now you've got some of these big clients, obviously, as I can imagine, and I don't know about where you're at there particularly, but there's got to be maybe a little competition that's like, hey man, I'd love to come in and take this over. What are the things that you do, and really big or small, I guess? What is it you're doing to really maintain these larger scale clients? Because I know if I had a business and I've got windows I want cleaned, I've got things that I need power wash. If somebody walks in the door and says, well, I can do this for a lot cheaper. Now there's lots of things I'm going to have to consider, like how am I being treated and all these things, but what are you doing to really maintain these and to make sure that company is completely satisfied?
Yeah. I mean, it's, we've been, FedEx and St. Jude are our two biggest customers. We've got a lot of other long-term customers, and mainly, it's what can we do to make their job easier, or what can make their facility better. And if we do everything in our power to drop of a hat, take care of a problem they've got, it's unlikely that they're going to forget that when it comes time to re-up their contract or to rebid. There have been of these companies have gone out to bid multiple times since they've been our client. Certain that we were not the cheapest bid, every time. I don't know. I didn't disclose bids, but I'd be surprised if somebody didn't come in and bid. But they chose to stay with us because they know that their problem is fixed if we're there. I mean, they don't have an issue. Like, it's, if they hire somebody else, there might be a whole new to come with that person, and what's the price of that? What's the cost of having someone there that's not looking out for your property, that's not reporting damage on areas that are unrelated to us. For our customers, like if we see a light bulb that's out, we take a picture of it, we tell them where it's at, we email, hey, you got a light bulb out in this building. Has nothing to do with us, but as a property manager, you can't go look at all the light bulbs. We see a lot of broken glass. The lawnmower throw rocks and break windows. Of course, we're cleaning the glass, but we'll tell them. I'm not gonna lie, we live in Memphis. So we've seen lots of broken glass, bullet holes in them. But I mean, I think as long as you're as long as customer service is number one, and you're providing it, price will be secondary. I mean, price still matters. You still need to be competitive. But if you've got that relationship built, and if they know you're doing everything in your power, everything you promised, and then some, that goes a long way when you get back to the contract. And a lot of times, if there does need to be some type of concession made on the contract, they're a lot more willing to communicate that with you and kind of let you know what they need, as opposed to just starting over from scratch with somebody new.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're in the service business, and and nothing trumps customer service.
Yeah.
It's especially if you get to properties where they own their property. Kind of notice the difference in that. The difference in property managers and then property owners. If you're dealing with someone who they actually own the property that they're occupying, a lot of times they're a little more flexible on how they'll work with you, simply because they want to make sure that it's taken care of at a very high standard. And sometimes when you get into like property managers, they're more concerned about their budgets and making sure things come in at budget, which they still set standards and they still want things taken care of, properly. But a lot of times they're handcuffed by a group or somebody, because they might cut on their service to meet a budget, as opposed to just understanding, hey, the service called and what you've got budgeted.
Yeah. So if you had to suggest like someone who's out here, some of these guys, we got a lot of listeners that, some of them are just starting out, some are, maybe they're several years in, but we have a tendency to have a lot of, whether it's power washing, window washing, any of these businesses, residential, commercial, doesn't matter. But when they're really trying to go after maybe some of these more contract clients, that they're bigger jobs, they're obviously going to bring in a lot more than what many of them are used to from one place. What is like a should do? Like if you're going to go in, you're going to try to gain this large client, what would be one thing you would think this is what you should do right away to get their attention and hopefully their business?
Yeah. When I'm approaching a job, and depending on what level you're at, like where you're coming in from, like you've got a lot of experience, some things just you're already doing. If you're starting from scratch, it's kind of different. You need to completely understand like the service you're providing, and you need to understand it on a level that's better than any of your competitors. And you need to understand it on a level that you can explain it to the customer, because a lot of times if you can go in and you can explain to the property manager, the owner, the service you're providing, and you go into details about it, you can bring up some points and some things that other companies might overlook or might not be including in their price. And so that can kind of be a differentiator on your quote. You don't need to try to, in my opinion, you don't need to try to worry about lowballing a bid. You need to try to price what you think's fair. Now that doesn't mean you can't price something to get your foot in the door, if you can, and then you can kind of figure out a little more details from there. But you need to be fair with yourself, and then you need to ensure that enough to the customer is going to trust you to be the one to do it. If you inspect their property when you provide a proposal, there's information that you're going to get when you go give that proposal that would be valuable to that property manager that they don't even know they need. If you're familiar with OSHA codes, you can inspect their building. You can see things that might not be up to code on their building that technically you're not doing work there yet, so it wouldn't matter to you. But you can bring it to their attention and let them know, hey, here's some things I noticed on your building. But something that just kind of make it out to say, hey, I'm going to look out for you, and I'm trying my best to share anything that I know, or anything that would help you from that I'm familiar with. I'd be happy to share and try to help. Try to be your partner in maintaining this project.
Nice. So knowledge, going with knowledge, kind of make sure you're very clear that you are the guy and you know exactly what you're doing, and be honest and open with them about like, hey, here's the property, and be helpful to them. So being helpful and being knowledgeable, that sounds like great advice. So if you had one, like avoid, like you should avoid doing this, do not do this as early as possible in this process, what would that be?
One thing I can't stand doing is cutting my price because the customer complains about it being too high. Now that doesn't mean that I don't ever work my price down a little bit, but I don't want to go in and match a low bid because typically the low bid's probably someone who's figuring out a way to cut a corner somewhere.
Sure.
And it might be something as simple as, they're not covered by the proper kind of insurance. And where I'm at, it's I do enough projects that my insurance is always current, and it's that's not obviously everyone's issue, but there's ways you can get by without having that. It's a big expense, and it's and there's multiple other ways. Your guys working up to code, or y'all taking some kind of a shortcut that maybe it cuts your labor time by 30%, but maybe you're putting your guys at risk of an issue. I can assure you that nobody wants anybody to get hurt on a job, but a property manager does not want you to bring somebody out there and get hurt on their job any more than you do. It's so safety's paramount. Like, never cut corners on safety. Never try to speed through a job, and this kind of all depends on which aspect of the business we're talking about. Safety's paramount, no matter what you're doing. There's obviously some things we do where, safety can cause a lot more issues than others. At a residential job, it's, you want to be safe. You want to set your ladders up right and whatnot. But if you start getting on buildings and, coming off of rooftops with ropes, obviously, a mistake can be a lot worse, a lot worse in some areas than others. Just trying to make sure that you take care of the job and you allow yourself enough time to do it safely and properly. So I wouldn't want to cut corners on that. No,
absolutely not. Don't want to get anybody hurt, and I'm sure they don't want anyone hurt on their property. Right. And that insurance, I know, has got to be, and I hear people complain. I know that's expensive. It's got to be.
You just thought taxes were expensive.
But that's it's a very vital, and that could be something that that can mean it could even mean a job. It could mean even some of the things that you're doing. I have no doubt that if something were to happen, and then you've got clients that are finding out you didn't insure your guys properly, and now what are they looking at? Is someone going to try to come in and do something different? Or are they looking at someone trying to sue someone else? There's a lot of logistics that go into play into that. But
nobody wants an accident on property. Nobody. I don't. No. The employee, from the employee to the building owner to anybody in between, nobody wants an accident. And
absolutely.
But if you start dealing with people that are if they're trying to get a job on price. To me, that's not the kind of customers I want. I don't want a customer that's going to award the job on price alone, because there's a lot more to it than that. And so if you've got to cut corners somewhere, if that's where you're competing, if the only thing that matters is price, then I've got to figure out a way to make my price less than yours. And what I've told customers in the past is, we're all selling the same thing. We're selling man hours, because what we do is extremely. It's a labor focused, market. There's equipment can offset some time, especially when you get to pressure washers, and you're going to have, bigger equipment that covers more area faster. But for the most part, what we're doing, everybody works with the same tools. Nobody's going to be extremely faster than somebody else. So if there's a big discrepancy in price, then there's a big discrepancy in how many hours somebody's allowing for a job to take place. And we've done enough work. I kind of know where our hours are supposed to be, so there's normally not big discrepancies. If we might be off 10%, but we're not misjudging a job by 40%. So if somebody is, they're cutting a corner somewhere.
Gotcha. So one of the last things here, when it comes to like goals. So I feel like a lot of guys, they kind of do not set goals. They don't focus a lot, and they may have something in their mind. Do you suggest setting like clear and precise goals each year, or maybe even quarterly? Or what are your thoughts around trying to get clarity on that, and how do your employees respond to that?
I agree. I think a lot of people neglect looking down the road. I think it's really important that you establish your vision. Down the road. 3-year, 5-year goals. But you really kind of, maybe you have those and they're just, they're there and you talk about them. But then you set, 1-year goals that kind of move you towards that target. And off those 1-year goals, you need to try to set quarterly goals that are going to kind of move you towards your 1-year goal. And I guess it's kind of like, if you're dieting or working out, it's that delayed gratification. You're not going to get instant results because you set a goal and you did something today. But if this week you're supposed to do this, and this month you're supposed to get this done, and by the end of this quarter you're going to have this much done, then you'll be able to tell that by the end of the year you're actually getting to that area you want to be. I think it's extremely important that you set goals, that you write them down, that you share them with people, you share them with your team members, share them with your family. Because once you say it and it's out there, then people will hold you accountable, and it kind of helps you hold yourself accountable, because then you want to fulfill what you said. But yeah, I think it's really important to set goals and really try to follow through with them. And if you miss one, don't give up, kind of reset your target and get back out.
Nice. Curt, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts for anyone that may be listening today that is looking and grasping for any information that they can get from somebody successful like you?
Man, I wish I knew what the secret formula was. I think the main thing is keeping your eyes open for opportunity, because I guarantee you I missed opportunities this week. I don't know where I missed them, but they're there. They're always there. They're all around us. And it's just trying to keep your mind open and trying to figure out how one thing you hear, how you could try to work that into an opportunity that works towards, what your goals are and where you're trying to get. But it's really just, be aware of all the opportunities around you, because I promise they're there. It just takes a little time to identify them.
Awesome. Once again, Curt, we thank you so much for coming on the Under Pressure podcast, where we're talking business and everything under pressure. We'll have you on again, hopefully, if you're up for that in the future. We'll kind of revisit and see what expansions have taken place.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, guys, thank you for listening. If you have any questions or if you want to comment on this podcast, please do. I will go back and look at that, and we will try to address those and talk to you more. And we just thank Curt for coming on and helping us out today. So you guys have a good time, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.